Okay, so picking up where we left off. Episode 2, Season 1, A Leaf in the Wind. Oh boy, it's crazy. It is crazy how quickly I fell into the habit of looking at this show negatively. Just the very next episode. Episode 1 was so much fun. It had so much promise. I enjoyed it so much. And then I started episode 2. I finished episode 2 and I'm already back to being on the negative side, which is, I guess, makes sense. There's only 10 episodes, so I think that would make me what? I was 10% of the way through, so 20% of the way through. I'm already not feeling it. It's whatever. I guess we can go over some stuff. I'll go over things that I liked first. So, things that I liked. I liked Korra's outfit whenever she's training with Tenzin, how she incorporates both the airbender and the water tribe attire into her entire ensemble. Very well done. Very creative. It just, whenever I see clothing and outfits in animated shows like this, it just kind of speaks to me that the people who are creating these shows and whoever is, drawing and animating and coming up with these concepts really do enjoy the characters and the world that they are working with. I always love to see that, and also just clothing and attires are just there's just so much better in animation because you can have it do whatever you want. Next thing that I really liked, when training with Tenzin, Korra complains about not being able to it being an opposite instead of it being fire, and having issues learning firebending because it's opposite of waterbending, which would make no sense because knowing Korra, firebending's the one that she's probably most proficient with. Just the way her personality works. She's just always looking for a fight. A lot of other stuff that I really like. If you heard that. The show came out in 2014, and I think that's a really good animation for 2014. I know it's probably a mix of like 3D rendering, CGI or whatever, and 2D animation on Leaf, but I still really enjoyed it. It was very dynamic and pulled me into this whole scene. I enjoyed that Korra has had issues with the 2,000-year-old relic, the spinning thing. She's obviously always just kind of brute forced her way through. She's always just been naturally athletic. And so her just being like, okay, yeah, I can run through this. This is no problem. It makes a lot of sense. It doesn't seem like technique is her strong suit. It's just pure brute strength. So I thought that worked with her character. Also, the music in this section was very nice whenever she was having issues with it. Another thing that I really liked, I have like a bunch of them listed down. I'm not going to read all of them out. Is just are the little interactions between Korra and Tenzin. It's just like they have such a familial relationship between the two of them, a father-daughter relationship of like Tenzin being like, no, you can't go do that. And then Korra goes and does it. And he's like, I told you can't do that. And she's like, well, you said I couldn't listen to it, not watch it. And it's just like the little Weasley things Korra tries to do to try and make it okay that she disobeyed what Tenzin was saying. I really enjoyed that. And just there's like a whole bunch of them. It's just it's so much fun. And to kind of build off of that, we have this continuation of the difference in philosophy between Korra and Tenzin. We see Tenzin, who's been trained to be an air nomad by his father Aang, the previous avatar. He passed those teachings down onto his children, and there was no issue with it. They accepted his teachings, and he was able to teach the way that I assume he was taught. But now he's finding it difficult to teach Korra. She doesn't accept the air nomad ways, and so it's difficult for him to connect with her and figure out what her deal is due to this. Specifically, what I'm referring to, there's a small little conversation after Tenzin tells Korra that she's not allowed to leave the island. When he's telling her that you need to meditate, it's freeing and it'll bring you closer to your inner self. And Korra's like, I'm not free. I'm trapped on this island. And it's just like, it shows Korra's just never been free, and just Tenzin's version of free is so different, which is just like its own psychological thing. Just like with him being the son of the Avatar and the only airbender passing on airbending. It's just, there's so much going on there. It's just so hard to unpack especially in like a free form conversation like I'm having right now. Like this is just for me, just so that whenever I go back, I can re-listen to what I did and use that for my final review of the show. So it's just there's just so much there, and as we go through the show, I'll start unpacking it bit by bit. But oh my god, Tenzin is he's just such a good character. Okay, let's go rapid fire. Let's go rapid fire. Let's hit a few of these at a time. Pro bending, pretty cool sport. It gets overused throughout the season, but I understand why. It's very well thought out, makes a lot of sense within the universe, and is just overall really fun to watch. Korra being Korra, whenever she's talking with Mako and Bolin, the two new characters who were introduced this series, who will be mainstays for the rest of the series. When the way that she tells them that she's the Avatar by saying she's a water, earth, and firebender, very cool. Not so cool is that the way that Mako found it out and Bolin didn't. It just felt so forced. But it was a lot of fun. There's a great joke that about about Tenzin complaining about Korra being defiant and never listening to him, and he turns to his children and he goes, please don't ever grow up to be like that. And the eldest daughter, who's reading a book, just kind of peeks one eye up and goes, I will make no such promise. And it was just a great joke. I don't know if it's just because like I'm older now and I'm a simpler person than I was whenever I was a teenager, or if it was just I have two sisters who very much were like that. It just resonated with me. Very funny joke. The comedy in this episode was actually really good. I very much enjoyed it. Korra and Tenzin's altercation at the end of the episode was great. Tenzin doesn't force her to leave with him. He just kind of is just like, all right, whatever. You want to stay here? Like, fine. In his mind, he's like, there will be consequences later, but he's not going to force Korra to leave. It's just not, that wouldn't be very airbender of him. And then I like that Tenzin watching Korra pro bend and seeing that she's starting to adopt some of the airbender teachings that he's been giving her with like, feeling the pressure of the air as like everything is flying at her, and realizing that, pro bending is the way to get her to understand she's a fighter. She's not a monk. Yeah, those are the things that I liked about the episode. We can move on to things that I did not like. For some context, the first episode had 2 things that I did not like. The second episode has, I think I'm counting 9. So there's a lot of things that came up in this episode that really did not resonate with me at all. The first one is the romance. We get the introduction of Bolin and Mako, and we get the introduction of Bolin being infatuated with Korra and Korra being infatuated with anime protagonist Mako. It's just, even in this first episode, the hints aren't interesting at all. I'm gonna skip to the last thing I didn't like. The end of the episode ends with Korra and Mako looking out over the lake, because Korra's in the middle of a lake on like Airbender Island or whatever it's called with Tenzin, and Mako's on the other side of the lake, living in the dojo that the pro bending happens in, and they both look out towards each other in a romantic fashion. And it's just, I don't get why they ended it on that. Like, why is the romance the big thing here? The relationship between Tenzin and Korra has been phenomenal. One of the best relationships in any show that I've ever watched, as far as like father-daughter relationships go. And it's just, they could have easily ended it with Tenzin and Korra like apologizing to each other for being assholes. But they don't. They end it with Mako and Korra looking out at the freaking lake towards each other, and it's infuriating. Like, we just met this character. I don't get it. It's just so bad. I hated it. Like, that was literally the worst part of the episode for me, was just them focusing on that rather than the good relationship in the series. Okay, what's up? There was some slow-mo in this episode that was just not good. I hate slow-mo. It's like, I can't think of any good, like, I just can't think of anything that, like, slow-mo has improved. It's just not my thing. And in this episode, it was hard to follow, made no sense. It was purely put there to, that someone said, we got to put slow-mo in this episode. It's a sports thing. So originally, Mako and Bolin's partner, whose name is Hasuk, fun fact, because they did have one before Korra, He obviously just exists so that they could be in the tournament long enough for Korra to find them and then be replaced by Korra. I don't believe he comes back. If he does, I apologize. I forgot this character existed. Like his existence is purely to allow Korra an avenue to join the team in the last second, at the last second. If he does come back and he does play a bigger role a little bit later on, I'll remove this point. But it's just so weird to have a character whose whole point is to just be a stand-in for the main character until the main character is able to get there. Like Avatar is writing and just direction is so much better than that. It's just so much better than one-note characters who exist purely to move the plot along. Speaking of makes no sense and moves the plot along, Mako's comeback in this 30 seconds where Korra and Mako were looking out at each other, and add in 30 more seconds of this comeback where Mako is actually being a good player rather than just having plot armor. Easy. I fixed it for you. Hire me. Pay me. I will fix your show, Korra. I will fix your 7-year-old show. All right. Rant. Okay, moving on. Next rant. Korra, when she destroys the 2,000-year-old relic. I don't know where this came from. It felt super out of nowhere. We see Korra get angry and use firebending previously. She's like having anger issues about being bad at airbending, and she like firebends like a wire, but it's obviously controlled anger. Like she does just like a little bit of firebending, just like a little bit of a vent, and that's it. This pure rage of just destroying this thing that she's supposed to work with, I don't know. It just really didn't seem to come from from her. It just seemed like there needed to be some tension between Tenzin and Korra. So it felt like a weak character moment. And then the last thing just makes no sense. When Bolin and Mako lose Hasuk and he leaves and they need a waterbender and Korra's like, I'll join. Mako's like, no, I'd rather lose than have you on the team. And that just makes no sense. Like the whole shtick of like Bolin and Mako is that like they're up and coming, they're off the streets. Why would he not be like, all right, fine. He already looks at himself as the best player on the team. He's already he won the previous match 1v3. Why would he not allow Korra on the court? Like I just don't get it. Like he also saw Korra work with Bolin the previous night and was just like, wow, you're a natural. You obviously like have some understanding of like technique and fighting skill. It just makes no sense. It's just supposed to be there to continue to make Mako have, some kind of resistance with Korra, and it's just not good. I hate their relationship. And this has nothing to do with Mako. Mako in a vacuum is fine. It's just whenever this forced relationship between Mako and Korra, just so annoying. Okay, so the only other thing that I had of note that I guess I'll get into with like the finalized stuff. The voice acting for this episode was really good, as always. The music was really on point. It was fire. The action was great when it wasn't in slow motion and when it made sense and wasn't just nonsense Mako fighting. Korra and Tenzin, a highlight for me, obviously. Their whole relationship is just phenomenal and the only thing that'll probably keep me going throughout this entire series. The only other note that I had was that I wrote down Bolin's voice actor channeling a lot of Jack Black as Po from Kung Fu Panda. And I just went back and I listened to it, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of just like the original Kung Fu Panda style, just takes and deliveries. And I that is not a bad thing. That is 100% a good thing. Jack Black as Po is one of the best voice performances from like a celebrity I've ever seen. It's really good. So a lot of props to that. And I do like Bolin. Bolin is a funny character whenever he's not trying to hit on Korra. So yeah, that was episode 2. I'm really it took a while to do. I had to wait for this new mic setup to come in. When I listened to the previous episode back, holy shit, dude, it just sounded terrible. So I ordered a whole brand new mic setup so that I could record these and feel good about it, because holy cow, does this sound so much better than the last one. And so this is I might even just go back and re-record the first one in case people want to like rewatch this series at some point, because if they go back and they listen to that first episode, I could see them not even wanting to listen to the rest of them because they're like, oh, this is terrible. Yeah, it was awful. So yeah, this microphone, much better than the previous. From also another note, I'll probably do multiple arcs. I'll probably watch episodes until I feel like there's a good stopping point to talk about and just cover multiple episodes. I don't want to do one for every episode. I wanted to do one for the first episode. And I want to do one for, after watching the second episode, I wanted to do this review for the second episode, because it just was so quick at just taking all the things that I loved about the first episode and ignoring them. It was just such a quick turnaround, and I just needed to vent about it, about episode 2. I believe, if I remember correctly, the rest of the season kind of follows the same steps as episode 2 here, where it just kind of like devolves and gets further and further away from the things that I enjoyed about the first episode. So if there's ever like a great episode that takes me by surprise, I forgot how good it was, I'll probably do like a dedicated episode to that. But for now, I'll probably just cover like, 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, 8, 9. And then I'll probably do a final episode with episode 10 to round out season 1. So yeah, you got that to look forward to. I'll try to bang these out. These take a few hours to make each, so it's definitely a little bit time consuming, but you know what? It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. All right. Well, if you're still here, thanks for listening to my little ramble at the end. Be sure to check out the next episode that's going to be posted at some point. I don't have a schedule, but hopefully it'll be, within a week. I don't know. Should I do do people who don't get views on their YouTube videos ask people to subscribe? Like, is that a thing they do? If you're still here listening, like and subscribe to the video. It's really helpful. Only 0% of people who watch my videos are subscribed because I don't have anyone watching. I'm just gonna stop. I'm just rambling at this point.